Hello everyone, welcome back to Git and GitHub Zero to Hero series. My name is Funny Krishna. In this video, we will see how to create a repository and how to start track all your project files. So first, let us try to understand what is a repository. I think already we have covered that in the previous videos, but let me give you a quick overview about what is a repository. Repository or a repo is a project that is tracked by Git. It stores all your files. It stores all your files as well as the entire history of changes. These repositories can be local on your computer or a remote, like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket. But let's start the repository in your local machine first. Then we can move that into the next level. Okay, right. So already we know about what is a repository, which is a project directory which is tracked by Git. So now you might have a question. Let us say I install the Git in my laptop. Does the Git track all the files in my laptop, and does it create versions? Does it store all the changes across the entire laptop? No, because by default, Git never track anything from your machine unless it is a repository. Let us say, let us go with some hands-on so that you can understand clearly. Let me create one folder. Let me open my file explorer, right? So just let me go to the C drive. Let me create a folder just to store all the hands-on things here. And I will name it as a Git. The directory name is Git. So here, all the projects and everything I will store here. I would like to create a project. My first project. My first project. If I store any files in this directory, they will not be tracked by Git by default because it's a simple directory. It is not yet a repository. We have to initialize this directory as a repository so that Git can track all changes happening in that particular directory. So before that, before initiating, let us verify, let us check the status of this particular directory. What does that mean? Whether Git is aware of this particular folder or this particular directory or not. Is Git considering this as a repository or not? How to do that? Just get into the directory, open the folder, right click. You can open terminal or you can open Git bash. So the advantage of opening the Git bash within the directory, automatically it will navigate to that particular directory. Right now we are in C drive, Git directory, and my first project directory. Now to check the status of this particular directory, Git status. What it is showing? It is not a Git repository. This is not a Git repository, or it is not a part of any parent repository. So Git is unaware of this particular folder and the changes happening in this particular folder. Now what we have to do, we need to initiate, means we need to initialize. How to initialize? Simple thing. Let me clear the screen. Git space init, init, git init. It will initialize the directory as a Git repository. Let me press enter. Initialize empty Git repository in C Git my first project and a hidden folder called a .git created. So what is this .git? This is the heart of the Git. In this hidden folder, it stores everything, like what exactly to track, or whatever is required to track your project and all. If you delete the .git, it will be no more a Git repository. Git is basically a content tracker, right? Which can store the history and everything in the form of snapshot. This .git, acts as like a mini database. It acts as like a mini database. Like it stores everything like commit history, branches, files, configurations, and everything. The moment once we initialize, If I go to the project directory, you can see a .git hidden folder .git. If I open that, you can see there are a lot of files and folders got created. What all these? Let us talk about. Let us talk about all these, and then just we can move on with how to do all the things. What is the objects? What is the refs? You can see here, right? In this video, we will just cover the architecture, like what exactly the .git folder contains and all. Okay. So the first, let's talk about this head. What this head is, the repository contains a default branch called main branch or a master branch. This head points to the current branch or the latest commit. Whatever the latest commit happened or the current branch, this head contains that information. Okay, this is the main branch. You are currently on main branch or you are currently on the feature branch. That's kind of a thing. Sometimes you might see a message like detached head, means you are directly on a commit, not a branch. That you can see while we going forward. Head is like where am I currently in Git, on which branch I am at. That is what the head. Then there is something called config. You can see the config file. So this config file contains the repository specific settings. Let me try to open. Let me try to open this file. What happened? Something got struck. Okay, that's okay. Okay, so in the meanwhile, let me explain the theory. So the config file stores the repository specific settings, like what is the remote repository info. This is the local repository, right? This repository is connected to which remote repository on the GitHub. That information will be stored in that particular config file. That information will be stored in that particular config file. Let me get into that. Here it is. Let me open in Notepad++ or wherever. See here, because we haven't connected with any remote repository. That's why you don't see it. Whenever you see, whenever it is connected to something, you can see something like another thing here like this, and like URL is equal to something like this. You can see github.com, something like this. Okay, so let me close it. I don't want to save manually. Then there is a description file. What this description file contains, what we call that, mostly like it is not that much that much required. It was used by GitWeb in the olden days. uh, I can say like a description to your repository. You have a repository name, right? This description file will have a description to name the repository. And then we have a hooks, Git hooks, right? Which contains the scripts triggered by some Git events like a pre-commit, post-commit, pre-push. Like it will run some tests before commit, prevent like bad commits, automate some checks, and all the things. So here all the files ends with dot sample. So here commit message, because whenever you are doing some commit, it requires a message. Without a message, you can't commit. So it will do a pre-check before commit, and it will give you a message. Okay, comment is required. Comment message is required, and you have to add some comment before committing to the repository and all. Okay, let me go back, and then here we have something called info folder, right? This info folder, uh, like git ignore dot git ignore info folder, where you can mention some information like what files you don't want to share with others, what files you don't want to commit. That information you can store in the info. Then the objects. This objects stores everything. It stores everything. Like in this objects, we have a different types of objects like a blob, a tree, commit, right? Blob is like a file content, what that file contains. Tree is like what is the directory structure, how many folders are there, how many subfolders are there, and how many files are there, what are those files. That structure will be stored in the tree. Commit is like a kind of a snapshot plus metadata. So we have these many kinds of objects which are stored in the objects, like complete information about your repository, files, and everything. and all the information will be stored in the hashed SHA-256 or a SHA-1 hashing thing, so that it will be secure. And then ref is like reference, right? It will store the pointers to commits. Okay, here is the commit 1, here is the commit 2, like a kind of a reference. So it stores the information of like how many branches are there, what are the tags of those branches, which branch is connected with which remote branch. That information will be stored in the refs. Then obviously we know, right, we have something called areas, right? Git areas. In the architecture we have seen staging area, working directory, local repository. Those we will see at the time of doing the hands-on, like creating the files and all. And there are few files which automatically created, like a logs folder will be created once you start working on the project. And there is something called a staging area will be created. A folder called index will be created. A file index file will be created, right? Which stores the information about the staging files and all. So these are the different files available in the .git. Still, we haven't created any files, we haven't stored any files. Just we initialized the repository. And the best recommended practice is whenever you create a project or whenever you're working on a project, you have to create a file called README file. You have to create a file called README file. Whenever you go, like whatever the project you open, you can see a file called readme.md. What is this readme.md? It is the first file that people see. It is the first file that people can see. Why? Because it contains what is this project, why this project were created, how to use this, how to install it, or if it is open source or something, how can I contribute or how can you contribute. Everything will be included in the readme.md. I will show you one sample GitHub repository so you can get some clarity about that. So it is in the MD format, markdown. It is in the markdown, written using markdown language, stored in the root of the repository, in which we will mention some guidelines, instructions, and all the things. So I would like to show you this our current GitHub Zero to Hero series repository. If I get into there, you can see readme.md. This is what that. Some instructions, Git and GitHub full course for beginners, everything you can write there like this, right? So readme.md is a kind of a file where you can provide some information to the users so that they can understand what your repository is about. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we will see like how to create the files, how to stage files, how to commit changes, and how to commit without staging, what are the commit best practices. All these things we will cover in the next video. If this video helped you, hit the like button and share it. See you in the next video. Thank you everyone.